Hello, hello. Welcome to today's video. This is our much anticipated live wrap up for the wedding workflow series. So, while we wait for some people to roll in, I just want to show you guys something exciting. I don't know if anyone cares, but I finally got my hands on the current issue of What's Up Weddings magazine. And I have to totally brag on my team right now and just show you guys some of the images that we had published. So we had a 10-page spread in What's Up Weddings magazine, and I'll just show you guys a little sneak peek, but this was the shoot that we did last year, and these are my images, and I'm just super excited to see them in print. It's like such a dream come true. So anyway, for those who are here early, you guys get to see a little sneak peek of some of my work that's in this issue. So if anybody's in the Anne Arundel County area, which I doubt any of you are, thank you so much, Aziz. But you guys can get your hands on that issue now. It's out right now. But anyway, so today I'm excited because I'm going to be answering some of the questions that I've gotten from you guys. I have a bunch of questions here, have some notes. Paulina, finally get to catch you live after the madness. Good. I'm glad you guys can be on here live. I know I kind of am a little inconsistent with the times that I do live streams, so I'm sure it can be a little frustrating, but I'm hoping that I can in the next few weeks. Josh, hey, welcome. I'm hoping in the next few weeks I can establish a more consistent time, and hopefully that way you guys can be able to plan it out with me as well. So anyway, I want to dive right in and I want to start answering your questions. So let me know, have you guys been watching the videos? Have you been watching the wedding workflow series? I know we did 5 videos on wedding workflow, and I'm curious if you guys watched it. Cynthia, welcome. Glad you're here too. I'm super glad that you guys are here live. Tell me where you're watching from. Have you ever watched me live before? And what are your questions? Hi Emily, welcome. I'm seeing so many familiar faces. I totally remember you guys. I remember your names and your faces from comments, from emails, from private messages, that kind of thing. Excuse me. So I'm curious what you guys thought of the wedding workflow series, number 1. From Los Angeles, that's awesome. Can you say hi to Catherine from Las Vegas? Hi, Catherine. Cinta from Toronto, awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you guys for being here today. I have some questions here from the workflow series, so I'm gonna be doing a wrap-up blog post as well. I hope that you guys had a chance to download the guide from your wedding workflow series, all the different videos in the past 5 weeks. I have some questions here that I'm going to dive into. Thank you so much for saying that. I'm glad you enjoyed the series. What did you guys think of the series? What do you want to know? I know that we touched on things kind of briefly. So we talked about post-production, backing up images, submitting your images to be featured, lots of stuff. I'll be doing a board to use in the future. Awesome, Cynthia. Well, I'm glad to hear it. So I know that one really, really frequently asked question during the series was, what are the exact questions that I send to my brides and that I ask them before each wedding day? So I think it was in the second workflow video where I talk about preparing for the wedding day. So what I send to my couples, what I ask of them, how I prepare myself and my clients so that we can get the best possible work, right? So I'm gonna dive into that right now. Actually, I have my wedding questionnaire right here. And this is actually a filled out questionnaire from a wedding I did, what is this? A couple months ago. A couple things that I want to point out, and we're not going to go into the whole entire questionnaire. Nick from the UK, thank you so much for saying hi. I was just in the UK. It was wonderful. You're welcome. I'm really glad that you got a lot out of the series. Okay, so I'm going to dive into this questionnaire a little bit, and I'm going to tell you guys a couple things that I think are absolutely vital that should be in your questionnaire for your couples, and I'm going to tell you why. So the questionnaire is just an opportunity, honestly, where when I was first starting, I would think about what are the things that are most frustrating on a wedding day that are not getting done, that we don't have time for, and that our clients are expecting us to accomplish in some way, but maybe not giving us the chance to because they just simply don't know how to help us, right? So the first thing I ask is about all the addresses for all of the locations for the day. So I'm not gonna just ask, where are you getting ready? I'm saying, give me the GPS location of where you're getting ready. That way they have to think through the address, they have to give me all of that kind of stuff. So I get all the addresses and all of the times. Arvind, hi, welcome, glad you're here. So then after I get all of the addresses and locations, we go ahead and we do start time. I ask them what time they would like coverage to begin and end, and I carefully note that based on the collection that they have purchased. So you have to make sure that you say, based on the collection that you've purchased, when would you like me to start and end coverage? And this is a great way of saying, I'm not just going to come and be there for 18 hours. It helps them to kind of think back to the contract and say, okay, maybe I did commission you for 8 hours. So let's be thoughtful and mindful about that. So that way you don't have that moment where they say, okay, our send off is at midnight. You're going to stay for that, right? So that's a good way to help them to think about how much they've really contracted you for. We also have a question about if they're doing a formal exit or not. So important moments that they may assume that I understand are happening, but not everybody does an exit, right, guys? So that's something that I ask. I ask about travel time between venues. I ask if the groom would like getting ready photos, because that's not something that every groom wants. I ask what religion the wedding is and how long ceremonies are. And let's see, what else? I ask if there will be a first look. And I ask if there are going to be any kind of like traditions or speeches or impromptu things. Like I know that a lot of families have these really cool traditions that they'll pass down, and like one of my brides during her reception gave her bouquet to her mom to thank her for helping plan the entire wedding, and it was kind of like a moment. And because of this contract, or because of this questionnaire, I knew it was going to happen at a certain point in the reception, and we kind of had like she gave me the look and I was like, okay, awesome, you're going to give your mom your bouquet and I can get the picture. So it was really special. Alexandra from Russia, hi, welcome. So those are just some things that I ask in my questionnaire. So my questionnaire is quite long. So those are the kind of things that you're going to want to be thinking about for your questionnaire for your brides and grooms. I would say it's kind of a trial and error thing. As you shoot more weddings, you'll realize, you know, I should have asked this. Keep adding questions. And of course, in my questionnaire, I also cover family formals. So I want shot lists of the family, and it helps me to have names. So that's something that I always ask for. Sorry, I'm getting a notification on my phone. I want to get rid of that. Okay. All right, so I'm curious what you guys thought of like the culling, the backing up, the editing portion of the videos. And if you're good on questions on that, you see, I love the printed guide. It was so helpful. I do have a question. I just bought a macro lens for ring shots. Do you have any tips on using a macro lens and getting the ring shots? I do, Julia. So silly. Thanks, babe. Julia's my sister, guys. Yes, okay, so I have a Cynthia, that's so funny. You know what? People always say that I remind them of Bridget Mendler. I don't know, I get that a lot. It's weird. Okay, so for ring shots, number one, and I'm going to be doing a course actually on ring shots because I just love photographing rings, and I think that I don't know, I love doing it. So I always get questions about this, and I'm going to create kind of like an ebook on this at some point. But essentially I have a couple of tips. Number one is I would go up in your aperture, which is like a little counterintuitive because I know when you look at images of rings, it looks like very little is in focus and there's super soft compressed background, you know, amazing bokeh, and just looks gorgeous. But I find that with a macro lens, with the way the compression works, you're gonna want to be more like f4, maybe 5.6, something like that. That really helps me get more in focus, and it really doesn't look like, everything's in focus the same way that maybe a 50 millimeter would be if you shot at f5.6 on a 50. So I would take that aperture and I would go up, and then I would just shoot in a location that you have incredible light, and then I would manually focus. So a lot of times you're not able to get as close as you want to because, again, all the time, always. I mean, I don't know. I didn't even know who she was. Someone was like, Bridget Mendler. Like, actually, my brother-in-law was the first one who told me, hey, Ryan from England. I was just in England. Loved your country, dude. Sorry, we're jumping all over the place. And then the final thing that I would say about macro lenses before I move on to the rest of your questions, guys, is that you're gonna wanna shoot and manually adjust that focus. So that's how I'm able to get really close. So I'm right in there, like, you know, if my ring is here, my lens is gonna be right here. Like, I'm very, very close. And a lot of times the only way you can actually like grab focus and get the right, you know, prong on the ring in focus is if you're manually adjusting, and that's just like, you're just gonna kill it. So it's gonna be great. Other than that, lots of practice. I have so many more tips on this topic, but again, I'm actually gonna be creating a course on it, just because there's so much that can be said about styling and light and making the ring appear bigger and stuff like that. So the 100 millimeter is a fantastic lens, so I'm sure you're getting great stuff. Okay, so I do have the 70 to 200 millimeter lens, but I don't use it very often. I don't think I've used it in like a year, actually, just because it's just so rare that I need it. If I do, it's during ceremony, it's when I'm in the back of the church, and it's just for a few shots, maybe like the kissing shot if I can't walk to the front, and then I just switch back to my 85 millimeter or one of the other lenses that I shoot more on, but I do have that for weddings. I don't know if I could go back. I don't know if I would actually purchase this lens. I would probably purchase the 120 millimeter f, I think it's like 2.0, because you get that telephoto, but it's way more gorgeous, like in terms of letting light in. So I would probably not purchase it again, but since I have it and, you know, I don't want to lose money and like be switching lenses constantly, I'm not gonna get rid of it, but that's just my opinion on it. Okay, can you do a series on softwares you use, more of your editing workflow? Yes, so I do have one video on software. So I have one on like the apps and the programs that I use. So I don't know if you've seen that video, but I talk about my client management software, how I cull my images, presets, different kinds of editing, stuff like that. So I don't know if you've seen that or if that was helpful to you or what more you'd like to know, because I know we have a million different programs in our businesses, so it can get a little crazy. Let me go back and answer some of your questions here, guys. So Cynthia asked, do you use zoom lenses when shooting weddings? I do. So like I just said, the 70 to 200, I do have that. I don't use it very often. The only other zoom lens that I use frequently in weddings is the 24 to 70. So I do have the 24 to 70 2.8. Okay. Allison asked, what are your biggest tips for speeding up the editing process? I would say my biggest tips for post-production editing would be to, okay, I have two. Number one is do not overshoot on the wedding day. Because if you have, you know, thousands upon thousands of images to even cull when you get home, you're already setting yourself up for failure. So really try to rein it in and almost pretend you're shooting film or actually try to shoot some film, and just be really thoughtful about the shots that you're taking so that you don't get home and you have just like so much, like you're just spraying and just holding down the shutter and just getting tons of stuff, and it's gonna make your life harder. So be pickier as you're actually shooting and be very, just don't overshoot is my first tip. The second is use photo mechanic when you cull and only cull positively. So I'm only gonna choose what I absolutely want. I'm not gonna go in there and say like, oh, this isn't good, and like think negatively. I just think yes or no, and I'm only gonna tick yes. I'm gonna go like tick, 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 and just go through and try to get the absolute best. Then once it's down to the best, that's the only thing I'm gonna take into Lightroom. So I don't wanna slow down my Lightroom catalog with, you know, thousands of images from one wedding and then be like, oh, you know, they're so similar, and then you're culling in Lightroom. And that's really counterintuitive. By the time you're going in and you're changing white balance and you're making your adjustments, you should not be culling. You should not be saying like, oh, let's not use this image. Like, you have to make that decision before, or you're wasting your time even editing those images if they're never going to get delivered, if that makes sense. So, okay, I'm glad. Okay, so you tried Photo Mechanic, it changed your life. So be ruthless when you're calling. That's a good way of putting it. Definitely be ruthless and try not to get too attached to your images, and just be brutal and honest with yourself about, like, if an image isn't working, get rid of it. It's not worth it. All right, let me go back really quickly, guys, and answer some of your questions. Emily Bell asked, which lenses do you suggest for ceremony shots? I'm doing a wedding in July and I'm going to rent one. So are you inside or outside? Do you want to get wide shots? Do you want to get tight shots? What lenses do you already have? So I shoot on 2 camera bodies at once. So I always shoot something maybe like the 24-70, something really versatile. And then on the other one, you could go really tight. You could shoot like 120 millimeter. Something a little tighter would be really fun just to get those ring shots. It depends how close you can get. So I'm sorry, that's not a super specific answer, but it completely depends on whether or not you're allowed up close during the ceremony, or what the situation is at the church, or if it's even at a church. Okay, let's see what we have. Okay, so you're saying a bit of subject. My partner, we're talking today, discussing about going full-time in photography. Would you have any tips on how to go full-time, if that makes sense? Yes. So for going full-time, I think that obviously you need clients. So that's the biggest thing. So in order to get clients, you have to have portfolio and experience and marketing. So I think that acknowledging where you're at and understanding if you're at a point where you can be charging a certain amount for weddings and you're ready to like launch, or if maybe you're not there yet. So I would say don't rush it. Understand that if you're going to quit jobs, that you need to have a certain amount of weddings on the books. You need to know your expenses of your business and your personal life. And a really good tip also is to cut back on your own personal expenses so that you can go full-time faster. So if you're able to eat out less, and oh my gosh, Josh, thank you so much. I just got my first super chat. That's so cool. I didn't even know super chat worked on here, guys, but apparently you can send a comment and some money, and that is so sweet. Thank you so much, Josh. I completely lost my train of thought. What was I saying, guys? You got to get me back on track. That was so fun. Did you guys know super chat was a thing? This is so cool. All right, I'm just gonna have to take another question because okay, marketing, yes. So so honestly, you got to have a certain amount of weddings. You got to have a certain amount of expenses, and really understand your money and your budget, and like your monthly, what you live off of budget, and then maybe cut back on some things so that you can go full-time faster. So I would say do as much networking as humanly possible, and take a lot of courses. You need to educate yourself, and you wear so many hats as a creative that you're going to need to be great on social media, and also be great at getting published, and kind of know your strengths and when to outsource. So that's definitely a very difficult question, and one that I could take a long time answering, but I would say take as many courses, get mentored, read, do as much research as you possibly can, because it's never a once and done, you know what I mean? Like, starting a business and running a business is such a process that I'm always reading and learning and listening to podcasts. And I know you guys had asked about the podcast I listen to, and I have that written down. We're going to talk about that. But I think just being a student, like a forever student and forever learning, is so important, because the industry is changing all the time as well. So I hope that gives you some tips, some encouragement. Honestly, it takes time to go full time. It really does. But if you want it enough, and that's your biggest goal, I think you should make it happen. Let's see. Do you advertise on the Knot Wedding Wire or Facebook? So I have advertised on the Knot before. I think I even did Wedding Wire. I don't currently advertise on the Knot or Wedding Wire or Facebook. I don't advertise on Facebook. I think I've what's it called? Sponsored, or like you know when you pay like $5 and it goes to more people. I've done that Nothing really came of it. I didn't target ads. I'm not into Facebook ads in a big way right now. I'm looking into possibly like hiring somebody to help me with that in the future. Maybe if I did a course or for mentoring and stuff, but more in the education realm. So more for you guys. But as far as brides, I haven't found a lot of brides through paid advertising on the Not Wedding Wire or Facebook. It's just in my industry and where I live. So I'm here in Maryland, and it's like the DC, Maryland, Virginia area is so saturated that you're just another face. So it's more about getting the relationships that I have with other vendors. So I have a lot of friends that are cake bakers, and planners are a big referral source. People working at venues are a big referral source. I'm more about relationships than I am about paying for ads at this point in my business, just because I find that if a planner can say, hey, I've worked with Joy Michelle, you have to hire her, she's the best, that goes so much further than paying hundreds of dollars to just be like one little square on like 30 photographers on a website. Like, that's just my experience, because I can't compete with a bunch of random people that, you know, they might be cheaper than me, and then at the end of the day, if they were $100 cheaper, they get the booking. So if you know what I mean, like, the relationship is gonna win out. Paulina says, can you give tips on branding? I think that is such a good topic. I would say before you can really understand like your brand, you need to understand like who is your ideal client and who do you want to be working with, and understand that everything that you're putting out is a reflection of your brand, and even the words that you choose to express your business and the types of work that you put out there, you're always sending a message. Whether you are being conscious of that message or not is up to you, but you're always sending a message. So I think that branding is so important. I would say, I have some good resources. I have a couple of books. I'll leave it in the notes. When I re-upload this, I'll give you guys some good branding resources, but I would say that understanding who you want to be serving and what your colors and your aesthetic are and who your ideal client is everything, because that's going to dictate your colors. It's going to dictate what platform you're even on. Are you even on Twitter? Who's your ideal client? And so it gives you a lot of clarity. I think your brand is really just your company's voice, and being clear on that is going to make your brand very strong. All right. Okay, what are more tips on getting wedding clients? I'm having trouble getting more clients, and I'm not sure if it's my prices, etc. But sadly, I'm as cheap as I want to go, and I can't find wedding clients. Yeah, that's so hard. So ironically, I don't know if it's price, to be honest with you. So I don't know your situation. I would have to ask you a lot of questions. Are you staying current and consistent with styled shoots? Are you getting published? Are you blogging? Are you getting out in front of people in any way? That kind of thing. So I would say, where are you at in that regard? But also, it's not just price. Sometimes price can be off-putting. If your price is so low that it makes people wonder, well, I really liked their work, I really felt like, they had a promising portfolio, but their prices are so much lower than everyone else, there's something must be wrong. So you can almost undermine your business by being too cheap. And I've seen it happen. So I don't know where you're at in your business, so I don't want to say that that's it, but I'm saying that price can actually work both ways, that you can be too cheap for your own good and confuse your buyer if you're too cheap in a market that shouldn't be cheap for weddings, So tips on getting more clients is everything that I was saying, like, are you blogging? Are you putting your work out there? Are you working with vendors? Are you doing styled shoots? Are you meeting planners for coffee? Are you submitting to be like on a blog and say, hey, I would love to guest post? Like, what are you doing? Where's your hustle? And what are some things that have led to clients in the past? So maybe analyze, well, I got this one bride and groom through this referral. So go back to that great referral source and say, hey, like, I loved working with you guys. So if you know people that are getting engaged, I would love to thank you with a free album. Or, I just want to let you know that if you know more people getting married, send them my way. So I say, really ask for those referrals and be willing to thank them and team up with other vendors for sure. Yeah, and then someone just says, team up with someone. Yeah, you have to work closely with vendors, so you can work closely. It looks like they did with hair and makeup artists, so you can do stuff at like a boutique for a bridal gown. You can talk to some venues and say, like, I would love to put a display. So if I had some of these portraits at a venue and I say, hey, I would give you guys these portraits for free. Can I leave some cards? And then you guys can also give me some of your information and we'll send work to each other. So get out there and get creative about who you can talk to and how you can connect with other vendors. So good luck to you. All right, next question. We have a lot. Okay, in terms of booking weddings, what is your process from initial inquiry to the actual booking? That's a great question. I already covered this. I made a whole video about that whole process. They said, is a consultation mandatory? No, it's not. If they're ready to book, I can send them a proposal and that's fine. I actually have a whole video about this. It is, I'm pretty sure, video 1 of my wedding workflow series. I have a whole playlist on this, so if you go watch the playlist, I also have a video on how I conduct a meeting, so a consultation with my bride. So if you check that out, I think you'll get the question answered. Okay, how do you keep yourself motivated in photography? I don't know. I just am. Like, I think it's just constantly working with other creatives that inspire me and never being stagnant in my work and never being stagnant in what I'm learning. So I'm not going to get bored because I know there's a million more things for me to learn. There's always something more for me to learn. And I think now that teaching has become so interesting and a passion of mine, I want to learn to teach you guys. I want to learn to explain things better. I want to constantly have my ear to the ground for good ideas for you guys and say, hey, like, this is how you can second shoot more. This is how you can book brides for $1,000 more. Like, this is how you can elevate your life and make more money. And I want to help you guys. So I think maybe that's honestly my motivator for sure. Okay. Sorry, I'm a little behind in the questions, guys. Give me 1 second. How many weddings do you shoot a year? So 15 to 20, not a ton. I really try to keep it like boutique and fine art just because I'm also teaching, doing a little bit of one-on-one mentorship. I do mentorships online for people around the world over Skype. And I also do engagement sessions for my weddings and anniversary sessions. So my brides and grooms from like previous years want to come back and do more shoots. So I want to do portraiture that's not just weddings. So I do a combination of things, but like 15 to 20 max. I try to cap it at that. All right, Emily asked, random question, I need a logo, any suggestions? I mean, I can give you the person who made my brand. I was branded by Ribbon and Ink, and they're amazing, and I really, really liked working with them. Okay, oops, I accidentally almost blocked one of you, but it's okay, I undid it. Okay. How do you go about rebranding? I would say work with a professional. If you can't afford to work with a professional, just go through some of the steps that we talked about. Think about your brand words. Think about the type of person you want to work with, what aesthetic work you want. So when I was creating my brand, I was rebranding a little bit. I had been in business for like 3 or 4 years, and I felt like I now had a really firm grasp on the type of work. So I'm like seeing it in the background, and I can see this work, and I know that's my ideal client. I know what my clients love, that they're romantic and they love flowers and they want airy imagery that's authentic and all that kind of stuff. So I use those words, and my brand now is romantic, elegant, and authentic. And I went around those 3 words and I constructed my portfolio, and I constructed my bio, and the colors in my brand, the textures, and what I share about, and it's a reflection of who I am. So I feel like really peeling back the layers and looking at yourself and looking at who you want to be working with is the best way to rebrand. I feel the only way you can start is to just like peel back, start from 0, and build back up. Okay, how often do you update your photography gear? How often should you update your gear? I think, so that's a hard question because everybody's really different. I have 2 different camera bodies right now that are full frame digital camera bodies that I shoot weddings on. I will probably add another body like at the end of this year or next year, because I can afford to. I have enough weddings, and I think I'm starting to get to the point where I would love to get a camera that has even better ISO performance and that kind of thing, but not because I feel like it's been 2 years or something and I need to upgrade. I think if you're getting your camera body serviced and cleaned and maybe replacing your shutter if it needed, there's no reason to take a camera, like to just say, it's been a year or two. So look at the like shutter count on your camera and see where you're at, because I know that cameras are almost like cars where they have like mileage and you can know how much wear they have basically. So if your camera is not working properly, that's a great time to update your gear. I add gear like I add a flash or a lens or trigger or that kind of thing as needed or as I can afford to. So I would very much love right now to buy like 3 different lenses and a new camera. But it's more so a factor of, can I afford to, when can I afford to, and that kind of thing. Because I also need to eat and like pay rent and adult stuff. So I don't have a rule of thumb, like every this many years you have to update. I think if you're not producing the work that you want to be producing, then start saving for the gear you think you need to get that work, and that's it. And buy it in cash or rent it, because if you shouldn't be going into debt to get just like a new camera or something, because you should be making that money so that it makes sense, like it's an investment in your business. All right, let's go back just a little tiny bit. All right, I was reached out to photograph a wedding by an event planner. I checked them out, everything was legit, but I didn't have much of a portfolio to feel confident to cover it. Okay, I think this question continues. Yes, part 2. I work with a lot of couples for engagement sessions, and these people reach out for weddings. I'm afraid they'll ask for portfolio even if they want me to shoot the wedding. I have nothing to show. Okay, so do you want to shoot weddings? And if you want to shoot weddings, I would say you have to get the portfolio for sure. You have to kind of push past that like awkward phase where people are asking you but you don't have anything to show for it, and that's totally normal in the beginning. I would say you have to second shoot, or you have to maybe do a wedding for super cheap or free and completely cover your bases. Get a contract, tell them I haven't done this, like this isn't my forte. And if they understand that and they're willing to take their risk, then that could be your first wedding. That could be your proof. Like I had a wedding in the very beginning that was everybody has their first wedding where you don't have anything to show. So it's this like stepping out in faith a little bit. So if you're wanting to do that, I would say like be upfront with them and tell them that you'd like to get into weddings, but you don't have the experience. You do have experience as a photographer, you just don't have experience as a wedding photographer. Okay, I see another comment from you. So I had to say I wasn't available instead of sticking it out and shooting it. I want to feel confident, experienced, since this client is investing in me. Correct. Okay, so that's fair, and that's someone's wedding day, and it's their money. So I would say if they're paying you and they think you're like a wedding photographer, definitely don't mislead them. But if you could find someone who would almost like understand that they're getting a very good deal because you've never done it, that could be a great scenario. Or you could second shoot. So I would say reach out to some photographers in your area, show them what you do have as far as portfolio, even if it's not wedding portfolio. Portfolio is portfolio, guys. If you're taking strong portraits and detail photos, still life photos, landscape photos, that's still portfolio. So I would send that to a wedding photographer that you think is right around like a step ahead of you. So not like somebody charging $10,000 and has a massive studio, unless they've put out that they need an assistant, but somebody that maybe has been in business for a year or two, and you can say, hey, I've been following your work and I'd love to help you out. So that kind of thing can open the door for wedding portfolio. All right. Okay, so Hall said, I have to go, but you're really helpful with the information. Bye. Okay, I think he already left. Bye, Hall. Let's see. Okay, your thoughts on color grading. Is it a good way to color grade an image. I don't know what you mean. So like in what post-production software do you mean? Okay. I'm trying to catch up with your questions, guys, but it's like they're happening so fast. Okay, my problem is I've reached out to a ton of photographers to second shoot, but no one will take me since I haven't done anything for weddings. I've asked for assisting experience, but I've got a huge portfolio for portraits. Yeah. Okay, so that's tough, and I can't speak for who these photographers are, but I would say be careful not to reach out to somebody who's too far ahead in their business where they can't help you anymore because they're so established that they can't have another person at the wedding who's never shot a wedding before, because it doesn't make sense for their business. It doesn't make sense for your business. What you need to do is find somebody who's like 1 year in, who shoots weddings and needs help, but isn't like this thriving studio, if that makes sense. So go on Facebook, go to meetups, go to networking, join the Rising Tide Society. Rising Tide has local chapter meetups. I would talk to people in there. I think the more, it's going to take a second. It's going to take a little while to dig. I was looking for second shooting experience for a long time when I first started, because I essentially decided I was going to be a wedding photographer and I had never shot a wedding. We've all been there, and I had to reach out to so many photographers that never even messaged me back. Most of them just said like nothing, or would say like, no, I can't work with you, but you can pay me to teach you. And so it was discouraging. So I think we've all been there. But what happened was I finally found someone who was like 2 years in or 1 year in. I think she was like in her second wedding season. Yeah, so Captain says you just need to knock on a lot of doors, basically, and that's so true. You do. Like you don't know when. Is it going to take like 3 knocks? Is it going to take 100? Like you don't know. But essentially you need to find that like golden spot where they have more experience than you, but they're not like a mile ahead of you, if that makes sense. So I think going to those meetups and joining a Rising Tide Society group can be that point, because a lot of times people in the beginning are really looking for that networking, and I think you should be networking all the time, but especially when you're first starting out, and even just telling like planners and florists like, I want to be second shooting and I don't have any connections, they could maybe even connect you. So like never underestimate like knowing someone even remotely in the wedding industry and saying, I want to second shoot. So put it out there and, see what comes of it. Oh, you're in Rising Tide. Awesome. Good. That will be very helpful. Okay, yeah, I did make the mistake of reaching out to people like you mentioned, but I did reach out to people who were relatively new in the wedding and same story. Okay, yeah. So it's not like a one size fits all, but I definitely think that you knock on enough doors and you're gonna get a good answer eventually, for sure. Okay, so Arvind asks, may I ask if you have a mentor? I've had multiple mentors in the past, and I have worked with a lot of people for like workshops and stuff like that, especially in the first few years of my business. I paid a couple different photographers to mentor me in this process because I had so many questions, like literally so many questions. I just would like write down everything I could think of and then hire a mentor and somebody who's like ahead of me in business, right where I wanted to be. So there was this woman who I heard of in Florida, and I basically just went on her website and bought her like Skype hour mentor session and just like pelted her with questions, and she gave me like so much amazing advice. Basically that would have taken me like years to figure out. That's what a mentor does, and that's what I hope to do for you guys, because it can just be so overwhelming. Nim, and you keep knocking, girl. Good. All right, let's see. If money wasn't an issue, how would you feel about putting the brand website before or simultaneously to building a portfolio? I'm trying to understand what you mean. It feels foolish to spend money when I'm not currently making enough of it. That's a good question. Okay, so you're saying like, do I build the business? Do I build like the portfolio and get some like notoriety a little bit and then invest in this brand, like a rebrand? Or should I do them at the same time? Because who's going to invest in my business and let me photograph a wedding if my website is like a mess and a disaster? And I think if money wasn't an object, 100%, Joanna, that's a great question. I would say pursue them both hardcore if money's no object. And kudos to you for having money to be no, I'm just kidding. I know it's just a question, but yeah, I would say pursue both, because I had a background in graphic design. When I first started my website and my blog and my business, I had an advantage because I could design my own stuff, and I could get, I could elevate my brand before I was really anyone. You know what I mean? Like, I had photographed like 2 weddings, and I had a beautiful website because I had the experience as a graphic designer. And I know that took me further in business. And that's why I stress business principles and marketing and branding and understanding like what images you're presenting, how you're presenting them, even just like the display or having albums, that kind of thing. It raises your business to another level that like you can't really describe. It just gives ethos behind your brand. So I would say it's really important. I mean, what was the question? You essentially said, how would you feel about putting the website before? Okay. I would say do them at the same time. Maybe not before. Like, I wouldn't say fake it till you make it, because you can't, if you're making a website but you have no images to put on the website, then you're not even really faking it because there's no images there. So I would say your work is still your work. So I would do them simultaneously. I would build a beautiful brand and work on the images at the same time. But I would caution you not to invest too much into your brand initially, because you may not know where it's going to lead in 4-ish years. Like, when your brand really starts to develop and mature, it might not be what you want. You may have to rehire a designer and rebrand, essentially. So maybe don't put too much money into it right away, because you might want to change it later. Okay, let's see. Love your tutorials so much. What do you use for client album designing and printing? Thank you very much. I use Fundy album design to design my albums, and I have a video about this on my channel, so definitely check it out. It's under my workflow playlist. So Fundy is amazing, and it's really fast to make album designs. Like, it's crazy. And then for printing, I go through a couple different companies. I have Miller's, so Miller's Lab, super classic for so many photographers use Miller's, Nations, and White House Custom Color. So I do a lot of like but individual prints through White House Custom Color, because I do the white border. And my print boxes are Luxe Bindery. I saw that someone Joanna just asked where my print boxes come. So those are from Luxe. Let me catch up with you guys real quick. Can you recommend some marketing and branding books? Okay, so Nim Ann, right now I'm reading So Good They Can't Ignore You, and I'm finding it really, really good. Let's see, marketing and branding. What else have I read on marketing? I've read, what do I have? I have The Pumpkin Plan. That's a marketing book. Definitely read The Pumpkin Plan. Start. Essentialism. The Purple Cow. These are all like super big. Like, if you went on Amazon and you typed in like marketing books, just buy the top 10. Like, essentially, because they're all amazing. They cost like $10 or $12. You're gonna get so much value for what you buy. Yeah, so hopefully those are some good recommendations. Do you do videography as well for weddings? Nope, just still. How did you come into wedding photography? I have a video about this, so I'm not gonna bore everyone. I wanna be respectful of your guys' time. I know there's a lot of questions on here. I actually have a video about this. It was another live stream, and it says how I started wedding photography. So watch that after this. Thank you so much for your question. Okay, not sure if you already talked about this. I'm wondering what specific questions you ask brides in your 6-week questionnaire after they've been booked. So Lauren, I did. I went over this in the beginning. I actually have a questionnaire here, and I went over like 12-ish questions. And I will have this replay up for you guys so you'll be able to watch it. Let's see. Okay. Photography related books, yes. So The Luminous Portrait is a really great photography book. It's by Elizabeth Messina. Fine Art Weddings is a book that, let me see. Let me get you one. Hang on. All right, guys. So these are really good. So Fine Art Weddings by Jose Villa and Jeff Kent. This is really good if you want to be in like the fine art world. I really, really like this. And I also like that it wasn't just about like shooting film or exposure or like only film stuff. It's like the business of photography. So then also Picture Perfect Practice. This is like a crazy awesome book. And I did not expect this book to be like a favorite of mine. It was just so highly rated. So I should have expected it to be good, right? It was highly rated. But it's a self-training guide to mastering challenges and taking world-class photographs. And essentially, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, they go through and like compare two images and then talk about why like one image is like a stronger pose because of the direction of light and the composition and the posing, and it just helps you to have a better eye. So these are two great ones. And then The Luminous Portrait. And that is a book by Elizabeth Messina. She's a film photographer. So those are three great photography related books for sure. I probably have more. If I think of more, I'll put them in the description section. Okay. What do you do to get inspired to do something? Wait a minute. What do you do to get inspired by something not photography related? Something not photography related. Hi, Eugenia. Okay, what do I get inspired by? I get inspired by good movies, really good food, going for walks like out in nature, even, it sounds crazy, but just like reading business books and getting really into just like social media, things that are not about photography specifically, make me inspired in my photography, because I can somehow like put it through the filter of like everything points back to photography. So yeah, so I would say all of those things are definitely inspiring for me. Jaden, the King Boy, thank you. That's very sweet of you. All right, so Eugenia asks, do you have any advice for overshooting? I feel like I'm a chronic overshooter, maybe out of insecurity. Culling drives me crazy. Yes, so I'm gonna tell you I'm the same way. Like if I ever shoot, like, sorry guys, my hair's like, it's so humid here that it's like sticking to me and it's bothering me, sorry. Okay, so I overshoot when I'm nervous, and I overshoot when I'm photographing a wedding that's maybe like really high end or black tie, or they booked like my biggest package and I'm just really worried, or I just sense that for whatever reason I'm not gonna get the shot. So that is hard. I would say that's, you know, you gotta push past that. If that happens to you every once in a while, whatever. But if this is you at every single wedding, I would say you gotta slow down, you gotta look at your images and ask, am I getting this shot? Is there a reason I'm so paranoid? Because if it's all in your head, then you have to like take a deep breath and will yourself to stop and say like, I'm gonna get a couple vertical of them dancing, I got it, we're gonna go horizontal, we're gonna go wide, and then we're stopping. Now we're gonna look at parents and getting the reaction to them dancing, and like you make yourself stop shooting the couple when you know you got the shot. So I would say if it's based on the fact that maybe you're not getting the shot, then you may need to work on like skills and stuff like that. But if it's really just like nerves, then I would say just consciously like have a list in your mind of like, I need this vertical, I need this horizontal, let's go wide. And then you know, I got it. Like I don't need to shoot 500 more, I got it. So a lot of times when I'm scatterbrained, like for example, when I get in the room in the reception and everything's set up and I have like 2 minutes before everyone comes in, that can be when I overshoot, because I'm like, I forget what I photographed. I'm shooting like the cake, and then I'm shooting one of the place settings, and then I'm shooting some flowers, and I'm like, did I shoot the whole room? Did I shoot everything else? So I think it's like I have to go back in my head and I have to say, calm down, what have we gotten? Look through my images, like take a second and not just like spray and pray, because the spray and pray method does not work and it just makes me have more work later. So that's my advice for overshooting. I don't know how helpful that was. Okay. Okay, do you have any specific workshops you would recommend? Oh man, I don't know, because everything I went to probably doesn't exist anymore. You know how people have a workshop for like a couple years and then it kind of dies off, like, you know, they move on to other things or they write a book or something. What are some workshops? So there is a workshop. Who is it by? There's one in there. I'll write some. I honestly, right now, I'm more into like courses and online education and YouTube channels. Like if you guys check out Jana Williams, check out Nadia Mealy. You can get tons of free education online. And as far as workshops, you can go on the Rising Tide Society, and they have like a running list of the best workshops. So there's like Creative at Heart. This is all US workshops. I'm sure that they have a list of like international stuff, but I am only familiar with stuff in the US. So I know Creative at Heart is big, and they have business ones. So it depends what your emphasis is. So if you want to learn about like business and marketing, or if you want to learn about shooting and like hands-on and that kind of thing. So it depends what you're looking for. Let's see. Would you ever make a photography book? Please, Lord, let this happen to me. Someday. That would be amazing. Amazing. Yeah, I would love to do that. I would love to. I'll probably make some ebooks and courses really, really in the near future. But like 10-year goal, yeah, that'd be amazing. I would love to write a book. Okay, do you take your camera on vacation with you, or is it more of a job and a free time boarder thing? Okay, so that's really funny. I recently went to Europe. I was just in London and Paris, and I did take one camera. I took the D610 and a couple memory cards and my 50 millimeter. So I took it in my carry-on bag, and I kind of was like, should I take it? Should I not? Because we were hiring a photographer in Paris, because I went with my husband. And we were hiring a photographer to take our pictures one day in Paris. So we knew we would get like all the sights and have professional photos, but I didn't know if I wanted to like be distracted and have my camera. But then at the same time, I couldn't imagine not having my camera. So the way it worked out is I actually only had my real camera. I call like my phone is not my real camera. My little digital, like I have a point and shoot, that's not my real camera. My real camera is like my wedding camera. So I only really took my real camera with me like 3 days. Like we did day trips. So one day we went to Bath, England. I took my real camera. One day, what did we do? We went to the Cotswolds in England, and I took my real camera and that kind of stuff. And in Paris, I did one day, so my husband did headshots for me in Paris. So we were walking around, we went to Notre Dame, and I had my real camera that day. So it is this weird borderline of like, if I have my real camera, then I'm sort of working in my mind, and it's fun, but I'm not seeing things the same way as just like a tourist and just soaking it in and being in the moment. I'm thinking about shots and composition, and I'm having fun in a creative way, but I'm not seeing everything. So it can be a little bit like work. So sometimes I'll take my camera and sometimes I won't. So I hope that answers your question. Shoot. Oh crap, I think I lost all your questions, guys. I don't know, I just experienced like a weird thing. Anyway, okay. Did I just like leave and come back? Because my phone just like went black and came back. Sorry about that, guys. Lauren asked, do you ever mentor other photographers in other states? I do. So I have phone sessions with other photographers and Skype sessions. And we can do that really easily online. And I think it's so fun to work with photographers in other states, because their photo market is completely different. Their experience, their weather, like it's so fun. Like for example, in Florida, their wedding season is like pretty much opposite ours. So it's really cool. And yes, so I do work with other photographers. Okay, do you have any tips for prom photos lens-wise? So for prom photos, I'm assuming that you're taking pictures of like people and portraits. I would say 50 millimeter is great. Okay, I'm shooting prom grad photos next week, and I'm so nervous, and I'm hoping to rent a lens. Okay, so if you're shooting lots of like group photos, I would say 50 millimeter is great. 35 millimeters great. I love the 85 millimeter, especially for photos of like 1 or 2 people. So if you're doing couples, that kind of thing, the 85 millimeters, beautiful. I have the 85 millimeter 1.4. But I just love really soft, warm backgrounds and just like the romantic type portraits. Okay, where do you want to travel to not in America? I really would like to go to Croatia. That's like next on my list. I want to go to Greece and Croatia and Italy. So I haven't been to a lot of places yet, so I gotta like get on that. I'm thinking about doing maybe like a Mediterranean cruise or something so I can stop at like as many places as possible. So we'll see what I have time for. Maybe like this winter in my off season, but right now I'm like knee deep in weddings, so I'll think about it in the fall. Okay. I am new, but I had done a couple of small weddings and I'm struggling with posing. When you first started, did you experience this and how did you overcome it? Thank you in advance. Cinta Studios. I absolutely struggled with posing. Oh my goodness. So I specifically remember when I first started, I would do like family portraits and even like couple portraits for people and like for family and friends, like for free or for really cheap. And I would just blank, like completely blank and be super nervous and then not really be assertive, not really be full of ideas and stuff. And I will tell you that changes for sure. So that is just something that like gets better with time and gets better with experience. And something I started doing was thinking through, like looking through imagery, thinking like, what do I love about this? What do I not? So starting to find like my posing style by identifying with images that I'm like, yes, I like that pose. This feels authentic. This couple feels in love. Why do I like this? Are they facing each other? Are they moving somewhere? Are they stationary? Like what's happening? So I would kind of just dissect portraits that I saw anywhere, even just like of my husband and I from our own wedding or friends or other photographers. I would look at those and then I would come up with just some core poses. So I would start with walking. It really helps to get my couples moving. It really helps to give them like, hey, I want you guys to just like wrap each other up and be standing looking at each other. And then they're just gonna naturally be looking and smiling and it'll be cute. So you start to read cues of your couples and it gets better. I'll just say it gets better. What you said is what I feel. Yes, you blank. Okay, so like that's totally normal. And when I don't know what I'm doing, even for just a moment, like, you know, if I blank, I have them walk somewhere or I change location or I have them sit up or like sit down on the ground together or do something like that. And then like while they're getting into the pose, I start to think like, what do I want? Do I want them looking at me? Do I want them looking at each other? Do I want this? So think about like not just the pose, but do I want it to feel like romantic or do I want it to feel silly? And if I want it to feel silly, then I can pull that out of them. I can say like, hey, you know, Tim, I want you to whisper in Sarah's ear. I want you to tell her something really funny. And that's not my job to make her laugh. I'm making him make her laugh. So giving them cues, like a little bit of cues where they're like, oh, I feel silly doing this. But then it breaks the ice a little bit. So learning a couple of go-to poses and having some things you do like in moments that you panic to help you like bridge the gap can really help. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm kind of losing my voice. I hope it doesn't sound like it. Okay. Okay. I'm trying to figure out where I'm at in this. Okay. Question. I have people that are interested in photography and they ask me for tips. I do give them some, but do you have any tips that I can give them? So what kind of tips are they looking for? I would be totally open to answering that for sure. Has being a wedding photographer ever been stress on your marriage? I heard a lot of wedding photographers say it messed up their marriage. No. I mean, I'm sure it's like stressful in that like almost any job can be stressful. But I think it all comes back to how I've built my business and how many hours I spend on my business and the fact that I'm only shooting 15 to 20 weddings a year. That's leaving a lot of weekends open. So I don't work every single weekend. I'm not gone, you know, for every family event. I'm not gone for every 4th of July. So I think it really comes down to boundaries and making sure that my husband still feels like a priority. So that's been intentional for sure, because I can see how it would be difficult to then not see me like nights and weekends pretty much all summer, and I work during the week to build my business. So basically he just wouldn't see me if my business was like, you know, every single weekend if I was working. I can see how it would be, but personally it hasn't been detrimental to my marriage. But I think that's probably just like from the business I've built. It's maybe not the same experience that others have. Okay, do you know Sebastiano Salago? No, I'm not familiar with his film work. You should definitely link it for me in the comments, because I would love to see his work. Do you give family and friends discounts? Yeah, kind of. I just do it for free, because I'm not gonna like discount my work and undercut my prices. I'm just gonna like either charge you or do it for free. So that just makes it easy. Okay, Kat said like what to shoot first and how to start up their photography business and what camera to use. Okay, so it depends what kind of business they want. If they want to be doing weddings, if they want to be doing portraiture, and if they want to be working more from a service-based business mentality or a product-based business mentality. So I would say if you're starting at the beginning, they need to take a course, they need to read a book, and kind of think about whether or not they want to be selling prints and products or their time and services. So weddings kind of lean a little more time and service for the most part, and are more packages based on your hours that you're at the wedding. So it depends. All these things are decisions that they'll have to make. So as far as cameras starting out, I would say it's not so much important exactly what camera or getting this super nice camera. It's more so important that they choose a brand. So like Sony, Canon, Nikon, like choose the brand that they feel fits them best and then stick with that brand. Because I know switching, like if you have to get rid of all your Canon gear and switch to Nikon or vice versa, that it can be really difficult and you lose a lot of money. So it's more so important to learn manual and get your hands on a camera and just start using it than it is the camera, because I feel like it's the photographer that makes the camera and not the other way around. Okay, best film ever, Brazilian photographer. Awesome. I'm gonna have to look him up. That sounds really, really cool. I will look up that film photographer for sure when I end this live stream, which I need to end soon, guys. So give me your final questions. I'm really sorry this has drug on really long. I'm actually gonna answer some of these questions really, really quick that I have from the videos from before. We talked about how to start second shooting, so we already got through that. Some of my podcasts that I listen to Jenna Kutcher's podcast, Gold Digger. I listen to EO Fire, Entrepreneur on Fire, I think is like the full title. That is super good. I listen to YouTube Masters or YouTube Mastery. They're basically, if you look up YouTube like podcasts, there's only like 2 of them, and I listen to both of them. And then I listen to the Happy Hour podcast. That's more of like a talk podcast. But as far as business, EO Fire and Jenna Kutcher's Gold Digger are kind of my go-tos right now. Okay. How do you choose second shooters? So someone asked me how I choose my second shooter, so I thought I would just give you guys a little bit of insight into what I do with my seconds. So when someone emails me or when I put out into the interwebs that I need a second shooter, I'm looking for someone who is in my area, so in the Annapolis, Maryland area, preferably shoots Nikon. So that's not a deal breaker, but it helps me to match my images to theirs if we all shoot Nikon. So I ask that they shoot Nikon. They must shoot full frame. And that's just because if your sensor size is smaller, it's going to be hard for me to have the same image sizes. So the images are going to vary so much in size. And of course, for prints and final heirlooms, I need certain size raw files. So full frame, local, Nikon preferred, and they need a few different lenses. So they really would probably need like 2 or 3 lenses. I just need to make sure that they're not shooting like the whole day on a 50mm, because you're not going to be able to get the group shots you need and probably not the detail shots you need if it's all on a 50. So a few lenses and a portfolio of experience. And then I usually just meet them for coffee and make sure that they're like a real person and that they're going to show up and they have transportation. So that is how I choose my second photographers. I don't know if that helps you guys, but someone asked it. Okay, what do we have? Okay, so someone asked, like, how do you use your images in social media if they, like, do I have like a way in my contract to ask for the ability to use their images in social media, basically? And I do. I put in that the copyright remains with me. So as a photographer, that I have retained copyright, and then they have personal use rights. And then I just have a line in there that says like these images may be used in like advertising, marketing, and that they completely understand that. So I always put that out there so that I'm allowed to, because I know some people were asking like, is that allowed? Am I allowed to like share their stuff online and that kind of thing? So I think you have to make sure that it's in your contract. So that's great. One more question is, how do I educate my clients on the value of albums and printed heirlooms? And I think that this is done in a lot of educating, obviously through different means. So I always bring print boxes, canvases, and albums to meetings. I think that like showing them right away up front, like this is my work and this is what a final product looks like, gets that on their mind right away so they don't think that it ends with the digital image. The second thing that I do, if we're not in person and maybe we're over the phone, I will still send them a video of the album experience. I will send them swatches. I will send them information about print boxes, because I don't want them to miss out on that experience if they're not with me. So I really show off all those things. And then of course I show behind the scenes. So on my blog, I may do a feature on an album design, like, oh, you know, the Smiths just got a new album, and I really showcase that. And when I get new pieces in my office, like when I get new canvases and when I get new prints and frames, I always share about that experience, and it gets my couples very excited. So I just had my print boxes featured in the wedding workflow video that you guys have been watching for the past 5 weeks. And one of my brides from 2 years ago texted me, and she was like, hey, I want to order one of those print boxes. They're so beautiful. I completely forgot. Like, you just reminded me. So it's like, the more you put it out there, the more you're sharing that you have these products and that you really believe in them, the more reminders they're like, oh, okay, actually, I really think that's a good idea. I want to go back and I want to order one. So, and they're great for anniversaries too. So it's like, even if the couple can't afford it right away, they might be able to afford it in 1 or 2 years, and you know, that still counts. Okay, is there a trick to posting on Facebook so the images don't look blurry in the newsfeed? And they're clear once you click on them. Yeah, so Joanna, Facebook likes images to be a certain like width and like resolution. So I don't know exactly what the template is, but if you literally go on Google and you do like social media image sharing sizes, there is like a key for everything, for Twitter, for Pinterest, for everything. So you're gonna wanna make sure that you're like, it's like 1080 pixels or something. And you wanna make sure that your long edge or your short edge is in alignment with that and that you're abiding by those sizes. And then as far as like the resolution for the image, you may only need to be at like 70 DPI or 100 quality in Lightroom, and not have this huge image. Because if you upload a large image, you're going to end up like, it'll end up compressing it, and that's when it starts looking weird. Like when you go in there and you check it and then it's all pixelated, you're like, that doesn't look right. Like so yeah, you don't want to upload like full-size images. You want to resize them. You can easily resize images in Blog Stomp. That's how I do it as well. Captain P Mode says, full frame is not needed. Cool. Maybe for your weddings, but for mine, it is. All right. I am going of guys. Thank you for answering. Regards from Germany. Thank you so much for being here. Awesome. Oh, awesome. Nim Ann asked, where do you get the print boxes from? And Joanna said Lux Bindery. You guys are so helpful for each other. I just love it. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here. I got through all of my questions, and I hope I got through all of yours as well. I know we had a little like snafu in the middle where I was confused and it got like the app crashed or whatever, but we're back now, and I'm gonna go ahead and let this buffer, and then I'm going to re-upload it. I'm gonna give you guys some book recommendations, some podcast recommendations, and we're gonna go from there. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you got value out of this video, consider hitting the thumbs up, subscribing, maybe share it with a friend, and I will see you guys next time. Joanna just asked me, do you have a schedule for your live feeds? I just happened to catch this one. I don't, so this is just a completely like wrap up question and answer video for the 5 videos that I just posted. Kat, you're hilarious. Bye, Bridget Mendler. So I don't have a schedule for live videos, but I will be doing them a little more often. I'm probably going to have a live video for you next Wednesday. Wednesday is my upload day every single week, regardless of whether it's live or pre-recorded. So I always upload on Wednesdays, and I always send out my education newsletter on Tuesdays. So if you guys are not on my newsletter list, go ahead and get on it. You can get on it through my profile here on YouTube. So if you click over on YouTube, it'll say get more brides, and I'll send you a free guide to getting more brides, and you'll be on my newsletter list. So I hope that this was helpful for you guys. Thank you so much for spending this hour with me, and I will see you guys next week. Bye, guys.